As the Rafah crossing crisis lingers, Palestinian President Abbas boasts international support to control it, but rival Hamas says it won't accept anything less than a key role. Who will have the final word, and what will the fallout be on regional security? This is Inside Story. Hello, I'm Imran Garda. Palestinian President Mahmoud Abbas says he won't talk to rival group Hamas until it relinquishes the Gaza Strip. He's dashed hopes of a rapprochement during talks with Egypt over the past week's border crisis. Hundreds of thousands of Palestinians flooded into Egypt in search of food and other supplies after Hamas blew holes in the border fence. It came after Israel's 6-month blockade of Gaza, which has seen the Strip starved of basic essentials. Egyptian troops have now resealed most of the border and many Gazans have returned home. The Cairo diplomacy aimed to find a workable solution to the question of the official border crossing at the town of Rafah. Well, Rafah is highly significant because Gaza has no working airport or seaport and Israel controls all the other crossing points. Under the current agreement, it's operated by the Palestinian Authority in cooperation with Israel and under Israeli supervision. But it was also agreed European Union observers must be present for the crossing to operate. They've been absent since June last year, hence no one's been able to cross. Well, Palestinian President Mahmoud Abbas said in Cairo that the Palestinian Authority would not accept new agreements, reiterating his commitments to previous ones.
We cannot accept any new agreements. We adhere to the existing international agreements as concluded between us, the Palestinian Authority, and the other 4 sides, including Egypt.
But Hamas insists the Rafah crossing must be under Egyptian and Palestinian control only, rejecting any international presence.
Our position is clear. We reject any outcome of this meeting in relation to the crossing issue. Rafah crossing is an Egyptian-Palestinian border point. The Palestinian people oppose the stand taken by the President of the Palestinian Authority as he seeks the return of occupation forces.
Well, finding a workable solution remains dogged by competing powers with divergent interests. The Palestinian Authority worries that events on the ground may strengthen Hamas's role in Gaza, legitimizing its takeover last year. Hamas is equally on edge, fearing Palestinian President Abbas, with Egyptian help, may try to sideline the group. Cairo, for its part, fears that Al-Qaeda-style militants will try cross into the Sinai to prepare attacks within Egypt. Of even greater concern, Cairo seeks to avoid the country becoming a dumping ground for Palestinian refugees. And then there's Israel. Tel Aviv is worried that Palestinian fighters may return from Egypt with weapons and money. Well, joining us now are our guests in Cairo, HASSAN Isa. He's former head of Israel Department at the Egyptian Ministry of Foreign Affairs. In Amman, JAWAD Al-HAMAD. He is the director of Middle East Studies Center. And in Brussels, Alexander GRAF LAMBSDORFF. He's a member of the European Parliament and its Foreign Affairs Committee. Welcome to the program, gentlemen. Mr. Hamad, if I could start off with you. Firstly, this phenomenon that we've seen in the past week at Rafah, do you think that it was inevitable?
I think so, because, Palestinians are under siege and embargo by Israel from all crossings. Also, it is not allowing them to use the sea and the air, as you mentioned in your report at the beginning. So people want to find a solution. They found the solution to go through Egypt, through, as you have seen, crossing the border with hundreds of thousands, looking for food and medicine, and for people to feel some sort of freedom by their own country.
Alexander Graf Lambsdorff in Brussels. The opening and subsequent flooding of Palestinians across the border was dubbed by many as a jailbreak, not without strong reason. Now that the border is closed again, do you think it's back, Gaza's back to being a jail?
Well, I don't think one can speak of Gaza as a jail. However, I believe that the situation is, of course, untenable in the long run. I would not agree with saying that this has been an inevitable development, because that suggests that forces of nature are at work, whereas here humans are at work and political solutions must be found. So I believe the real key here lies in finding a political solution among the humans affected. And of course, the people of Gaza are suffering, so it's in their interest to find a political solution soon.
We're talking about political solutions. Mr. Issa, one would have thought that Egypt mediating would be the perfect forum for Hamas and Fatah to get together and not only talk about Rafah, but to talk about bigger issues and maybe sort out their differences. That doesn't seem to be happening. Are you concerned about that?
Extremely concerned, because the proof is what happened on the Gaza crossing, on the Rafah crossing. We have to realize, of course, the elements around this issue. The Israeli element, of course, what makes us fear, and for the Palestinians and for us, is that the Israelis had many research centers talking about the Sinai as a dumping ground for the Palestinians, whether only for the Gazans or for all the Palestinians. This is a very serious matter. Second element is the Palestinian element. Since the takeover of Hamas over Gaza, we have been worrying because it was creating a grave situation, and it was consolidating the fact that Gaza is being separated from the West Bank. Thus, the dream of having a Palestinian state is fading away. The third element is our element, the Egyptian element. We are interfering here, being on the horns of a dilemma. On the one hand, we care for the Palestinians, we support the Palestinians, we are really very sad for what is going on Palestinian territory. But on the other hand, we cannot neglect our national security. We cannot neglect our interests that has been, and our sovereignty, that has been violated by the Palestinians across in Rafah. That leaves us in a situation that gets us into one direction, getting Hamas and Fatah to conciliate and to find a solution between them. I dare say this is very difficult in view of the fact that there's a completely different agenda, that of Hamas than that of Fatah. We realize that, and that is why we realize that we are facing a very grave problem and a very serious task.
Mr. Hamad, how much did Hamas gain from blasting the wall, making those holes in the wall? Have they proven that, try as the international powers may, Hamas cannot and will not be isolated?
Of course, neglecting Hamas, as happened by the international community and by Fatah itself and the PNA in Ramallah, I think has pushed Hamas towards moving forward to help people in feeding them and having them recurring as their medicine and their ill people. So Hamas is gaining very much amongst its people there. Secondly, Hamas now has proven that it can control the borders very well, securely with Egypt. And I don't agree with my colleague, Mr. Hassan, that it is threatening the national security of Egypt. No, Hamas has proven that it is part of the Egyptian security. As the 7 days we have witnessed the floods of people in anywhere in the world may happen a lot of bad things, but they did not. It is from the Egyptian party and the Palestinian party also, which is controlled by Hamas, was coordinating very well from the point of security. So it is a Palestinian and Egyptian border that both sides can control and can implement all security measures that needed in any borders in the world.
Hassan Issa, do you want to respond to that?
Yes, please, because I would like to tell my colleague in Jordan, just imagine having 300,000 people swarming your borders with no control, and up to this minute, our security forces are searching in the canal area, in Beni Suef, in Upper Egypt, in Cairo, where they found 28 Palestinians with detonators and with explosives and with electronic machines. And we do not know whether there are others roaming around our country. And then my colleague in Jordan thinks that this has no connection with our national security. Then for heaven's sake, what is?
Interesting response there.
I'm not sure.
Yes.
Let's go to Ahmad.
Sure,
you have a chance, Mr. Hamad. You have a chance.
Okay. I want to say, let's have our time to think about these things deeply. Don't take some small news here and there or reports here and there to give a political opinion and security opinion, as Mr. Hassan has mentioned. Let's have time to think about it deeply and discuss it deeply as Arabs and the Arab media, because if we want to push things like this, we have many runaway people who has explosives around themselves in Egypt. So you are terrorizing your people in Egypt from some such terrorist maybe there. But I don't think such information are very much accurate. It's primary to accept such reports.
All right, let's bring in a European perspective here. Alexander Graf, LAMBSDORFF, we saw thousands coming back into Gaza with fuel, concrete, medical supplies, things that they really did need and they didn't have during what people would call the siege of Gaza. But how valid is the concern, however, that more weapons may have come back into Gaza? We heard the Egyptian security concern from Mr. Issa. How valid is that concern from the European and international perspective?
Well, it's very worrying, of course. And I think what Ambassador Issa just said is very clearly an indication that the situation is not tenable in terms of the security implications it has. I mean, in my own country or in the European Union, 300,000 people storming across the border, doing what they legitimately are entitled to do. I mean, they have been in a difficult situation, and I believe it's normal that they should try to get supplies. But 300,000 people getting across the border without any controls, of course, that is a difficult and a security situation. And we know from past developments how difficult the question of weapons smuggling across that particular border crossing has been. So the concern is more than legitimate. It is very serious indeed, and I believe it doesn't bode very well for the security of the region as a whole.
All right, gentlemen, don't go away. Time for a short break. When we come back, we explore some of the options available to help diffuse the current crisis. Do stay with us.